Yes, the groove is loud.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Groove. And today I am here with Gray from Estrogents.
Yay.
Thanks so much for coming on Zoom. I'm super excited to talk to you about your newest release and everything that's going on in the Estrogens world. But first, we're gonna get a little intro to the band. So, why the name Estrogens? Like, where did Estrogens arrive from?
I was sitting on the beach and Dee had just left to go get pizza up on the boardwalk, and this glass bottle washes up on shore, and I uncork it, obviously because I'm curious, and I look inside and there's this kind of like burnt yellowed piece of paper, and it says estrogens, and I don't know what it means. But we were looking for a band name at the time, so that's the one that we decided to go with, just because it was like that's such an
Yeah.
interesting piece of language. I've never would have thought of it before.
Wait, so you really got a message in a bottle then?
No, not at all. It's just a very common question that we get, so it's fun to talk about because a lot of people think that our band name is very clever,
It
but
is.
it's literally just like I think that everyone has gone through some kind of expectation that, masculinity has to be this certain type of way.
Mhm.
And I think that the band name just kind of rejects that. It's something that's a little, ridiculous to put on people. And estrogens is just a fun word to say.
Yeah, it is. That's awesome. What are some other stories that you've made up in the past?
Actually, that was a rule that we decided we were going to try and come up with something new every time.
Mhm.
The last time that we got interviewed, so you're the first one.
Awesome. Wait, that's so cool. Well, congrats on your first interview. This is hype. You actually really got me. I'm like the most gullible person you'll probably ever meet in your entire life. So I was like, no way, I didn't know that could actually Oh, I'm embarrassed. But that's cool. So, how did the band form originally?
So Dee and I were best friends since fourth grade, and sometime around like the end of middle school, we decided that we wanted to start a band.
Hmm.
Just because, we're from South Jersey, there's not a whole lot to do in South Jersey other than go to the grocery store and
Hmm.
walk around Walmart. Um, so it was just kind of a decision that we made, and then we started learning how to play instruments together, and then we met Jack in freshman year of high school. And Dee was originally going to play guitar, but then Jack was like actually knew how to play guitar, so Dee, being a mediocre guitarist, became our bass player. uh,
Hmm.
and then in senior year of high school, our band director's son, Michael, was a really big fan of the band, and he got a guitar for Christmas, and we were just all friends. So, it was like we wanted to do something bigger, and have a
Hmm.
bigger guitar sound. So he joined on, and we've been with that lineup ever since.
That's awesome. So, you did say that there's nothing to do in South Jersey, and that's kind of why you formed the band. But
Mhm.
was there any other reasons for that motivated you to even think of starting a band in the first place?
Uh, it like a fun thing to get into. I was wrong. No, but it seemed like a an interesting thing to really, like, just there was a lot to it, and I think that
Hmm.
that was what was interesting. It's like, okay, well, it's not just we write these songs and we play them. It's also, we get to kind of create this vibe, kind
Hmm.
of put on a performance and have this, attitude towards playing and really get into a space for people to go and listen to music. Because at the time, when we started a band, we were the only people from our hometown who were in a band. So
Hmm.
our local scene was one band, and it was us.
Oh,
Um,
no.
and just the idea to create something like that was, I don't know, it seemed like there was a lot of potential there, which I
Hmm.
think ended up being true.
Yeah. So this is probably like a very straightforward answer, but you said you were the one and only band in your local town. So how did you guys kind of break into the larger Jersey scene that is everyone's like it's really built on Rowan a lot, but how did you kind of break into that?
So Rowan is our local college.
Hmm.
So after high school, Jack started going here. I took a gap year. Um, and I think it was just he became friend because he's a music major here. So he
Hmm.
became friends with some of the people who were in, the music building, and those people obviously are connected to the music scene here. And then through that, it was like, oh, well, he's in a band, so we're going to try and get a couple shows there.
Hmm.
And the first show that we played on campus was sometime in November at Audio Space. It's a venue that doesn't exist anymore, but
I
um,
loved Audio Space, RIP Audio Space.
I was there twice. Once was for the first show that we played, and then the second time was their last ever show because they got shut down by the cops. Um,
No.
that was pretty tragic.
Yeah, it is sad. A lot of good venues have stopped because of that same exact reason, but
Mhm.
it has brought so many bands like like Estrogens itself into the scene, and it's like it'll go down in history
It's true.
from these conversations. But since your band has started, when did it start exactly? The year?
So I think we started playing music together in 2018. Estrogents officially started in 2021.
Okay, so you've been playing for 4 years as Estrogents. Um, has your outlook on why you are a band changed at all over time? And like maybe you're like, oh, in the beginning it's kind of like a fun little creative project just to do things. And like maybe now you feel a little differently about why you're still continuing Estrogens. Has that happened?
I don't think so. I think that it is and always will be a fun creative project. It's something that
Mhm.
we all get to get together and work on. But really, ultimately, the goal of Estrogens has been friendship and music, you
Mhm.
know? So whenever we post anything or play anything or release anything, the goal is we want to connect with people and we want people to enjoy what we make. But also, when other people make stuff, we want to support them and
Mhm.
encourage other people to get as involved in other people's stuff as we are because I mean the music scene that we kind of started in our hometown was one that was very connected online,
Mhm.
so it was a lot of like, we knew these people from Pennsylvania. The band is called Feverton, and we have known them probably the entire time that we've been a band.
Mhm.
um, and it was a lot of just like they would put something out and we'd be like, you should check this out, and posting about their stuff. So yeah, I don't think that it's really changed too much. It really is kind of just friendship and music.
Yeah. How would you say the band has kind of changed you as a person and maybe your bandmates? I don't know if you can speak on that for them too, but like how has your outlook either on life or just yourself kind of changed from being a part of Estrogens and the scene overall?
I think that estrogens has made me a much more social person.
Hmm.
It's given me the confidence to, get up on stage and perform, but then also take that confidence off stage and be able to just make connections with people.
Hmm.
Um, I know that estrogens has also had a profound impact on my career. I'm currently studying to be a public relations practitioner,
Oh wow.
and I mean, all of that is because we started a band and I started making those connections to find something that I could do professionally that
Hmm.
puts me in as many similar spaces as being in the band does. So it's something where I think that if it weren't for estrogens, I would probably be much lonelier, honestly, and much less interesting. I can't really speak for anybody else, but that's how I feel.
No, yeah. I remember when I like started college, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so weird and like boring." And then I started going to shows and then my podcast kind of came on from that. And now I'm like I have the music scene to thank for like my non-boring Sundays anymore. Like everything
Hmm.
like that, because on the weekends I just literally would not know what to do. And also the scene is just like super welcoming and like awesome. So, I mean, since we're on the topic, like is there any bands or like people specifically that kind of stand out to you that have helped Estrogens or just you and like your social game that you're a part of? Oh.
I don't know. It's a good question. I think. What's up? Oh, did we cut out?
No, I think it was cutting out, but it's good. We're good.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to place everybody who's had an impact on me socially or just in music. But the ones that come to mind, Gimmick just had stuff that came out, and I saw your podcast with them. And I love those people because they were part of the reason. I strongly believe that Gimmick is part of the reason that the scene grew beyond just the college level
Mm,
because they started putting on shows at the DAV in Hamilton. And so that gave people who would only go to shows during the school year something to do over the summer. Um, and it kind of has snowballed from there where other people are booking stuff at VFWs. Obviously, that's always been something, that's part of the DIY scene, but I think they were the first ones to introduce it to the South Jersey Glassboro area.
mm,
Um, and I think that anybody influential who really, you know, decides like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do my best to make a project realize. Those are the people that I find the most impressive.
mm,
Like Amanda Tropia from Calling from Pluto. We just did a thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but we just did a thing for their music video, and I'm not going to go too much into it. But just watching her direct and kind of take on the challenge of really actually filming a music video
mm.
is so impressive, especially the scale that they're doing it at.
Yeah.
Um, and it's bands and people like that who I find really really cool.
Yeah, no, it is pretty interesting to see like how like into it people become. And like I think people look at the music scene and they think it's just the music and that's it. Like, but there's so much underneath of it that is like the promotion, the venues, the bookers, and then also music videos, album covers, and then actually recording the music and releasing the music. I don't think people fully understand everything that goes into it. And since you
Mm-hmm.
guys have been this band for 4 years, how do you guys kind of navigate through having to record and then release and then also promote your own music? Like what is your structure for that sort of?
So I think that it became a bigger after we graduated high school because when we put out our first album in 2021 it was like okay, we have one thing to do. None of us, I think, literally when we recorded our first album, not a single one of us had a job. We were
Mm,
all like freshly coming into junior year of high school.
wow.
um, and when we recorded our music video for Romance Pumpkins, I think that was right after I got my first real job and Jack got his first real job. So it's just the time that we had to dedicate to things was a lot more.
Mm,
But now it is a lot of like, okay, so we have to work around everybody's school schedules, and some people work, more hours than others, and it just, it's something that is very time consuming, but having the motivation to really just focus on it
mm,
when we can, and knowing that it's a project that we always want to come back to, even if we have to take some time away from it,
mm.
um, really motivates us to keep going as much as possible.
Yeah. Have you guys ever taken like a step back from estrogens and then came back to it with like a different mind, I guess?
So actually, right now, we are kind of the most subdued that we've been in a while because we were playing consistently since the start of the year.
Mm,
Um, I don't remember exactly how many shows we did this year, but it was the most that we've ever done. plus putting out the album and everything else. And right now, for the next couple of months, just getting through finals and everything, we're
Yeah.
trying to do a little bit less, focus less on, the growth aspect and, the promotion aspect, and just kind of be friends, spend
Mhm.
some time together outside of doing shows and stuff, still going to shows, but, making sure that we're not burning ourselves out completely. Because, like
Yeah.
I said, it was a very, very busy year.
hmm No, that's like super important. I think a lot of bands sort of lose that too, is like, yes, this band is like what you want to do, but you kind of have to take a break from it every once in a while to have it be the best that it can be,
Mhm.
especially when regular life gets in the way, because no one I talk to, DIY bands at all, is this is like their number one thing that they're doing. Like they have jobs or there's school or there's something else. So obviously they can't just always work on the music, and I think some bands burn themselves out completely, and that's why we've lost quite a few great ones in
Mhm.
the past few years. And I think that's like super important for people to understand is like, yeah, you can be in a band, you gotta take a break. Like it's fun until it's not, and you need to
Mhm.
know when to stop. Um, but you guys have had an EP and quite a few singles out since 2021. When you listen back to those projects, do you see them in a negative light or do you still love those songs?
So I think it's interesting looking at the way that our first album is received now,
Mm.
because obviously when we put it out, it was something that we did in high school. So it was a less, I mean, I want to call it less serious, but it was, it was still something that we were putting out because we wanted to put out a record.
Yeah.
But then looking at it now and the way that people talk to me about that, it's like, oh, one of my favorite songs of yours is this, and it's some deep cut off our first. And I'm like, why? Like, what do you, I don't, it's fun for me to reflect on it and look at where we've come from, but it's also fun to listen to because, I mean, we always write music that we like. So,
Mhm.
um, nothing really negative. Some stuff that I think we've grown from, but I don't think that there's any bad, uh, anything that we look at as like bad. We had the 60s covers EP that we did, with a couple songs that we would always play live. That's no longer public. That's kind of like a lost media now. But that was more just because it didn't feel like representative of us, and also because DistroKid, and distribution services are money hungry, and they ask for money every year that you license a cover. So yeah, but to answer your question, no, I don't think that there's anything necessarily negative.
Mhm. Yeah, because there's a lot of bands that I'll talk to and they always say like, "Oh yeah, it's like that song was so shit. Like I hate that song." And then, like I don't know. I feel like the fact that you're saying that you still like them is better that way. Because, like, you can always learn from it, but that's like what you used to be. That's what Estrogens was, and now it's something different. But what is like the number one thing you think you've learned from listening to old songs, and that how do you like incorporate that into what you make now?
I don't know, number one thing I've learned, I guess just sometimes when I listen back to the old stuff, I think about the ways that we wrote those songs and the way that we write songs now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that juxtaposition, I really enjoy the newer style of writing, which is much more collaborative. Before
Mm-hmm.
it would be, like I would sit down and I would write, a guitar riff and then maybe lyrics, and then we'd bring it together at band practice and then, run with it and see what we could do. But now it's more of like there'll still be bits and pieces that we work on, but I'm always sending stuff to Jack because he knows guitar better than I know guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm like, I have this idea for a melody or a feeling, he can give me something that kind of reflects that. And then I'm inspired by his version of what my idea is to kind of dive deeper into it in different ways. So I think really the big thing that I've learned from reflecting on our older stuff is just that we really are strongest when we put everything
Mm-hmm.
together rather than trying to. be like, here's a full song that I wrote, and we're gonna play it and we're gonna call it Estrogens, even though like technically I wrote it fully.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everyone's got their expertise and everyone has their angle that they like to come at the project with, and I think that that's the best way to do things
Yeah.
for us anyway.
Mm-hmm. What was the first song that was like the most collaborative song that you guys ever did, if you remember?
It's a good question. I think probably the most collaborative song that we've done is Tone Deaf. That
Mm-hmm.
one started out, we were practicing, just me, Jack, and D, because Michael was busy that day. Um, and we were literally were just playing around with some sounds, and then D was playing something on the bass, the little opening part, and then I started playing with that, and then Jack, added on top of that, and then it was like we just kind of improvised concepts, and
Mm-hmm.
then it was, okay, let's record that because we like it, and then go back, and I think then Jack threw on his thing, and we wrote a second verse, and that's the only song on Chemical Burns that Michael has like a lead vocal on,
Mm-hmm.
and that was exciting, being
Mm-hmm.
able to be like, obviously he's been a real part of the band for a long
Yeah.
time, but he didn't have, like a part to really perform like that. And
Mm-hmm.
then being able to write that in, it's like, you know, very fun. I think that song really took shape just because it was so, everybody was
Yeah.
involved with it.
Mm-hmm. And now it's like a very much more specific sound for you guys because it is all of your brains in one. So you've just dropped your album Chemical Burns recently. That shows off your talent and has solidified who Estrogens really is now. So how long have you been sitting on this project?
A couple of the songs we wrote in 2021, because a lot of the stuff from that first album had been written before that, and then uh, we put all those songs together, and then once that was done, it was like straight into writing more stuff,
Hmm.
and then just over the years, it would be new ideas and new things that would crop up and give inspiration, and it was really like having the chance to live life and come up with new ideas that stuff kind of just produced itself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, 2021 we started working on stuff, and then it was I think end of 2024 we had all of the songs for the record recorded. So it took about 3-ish years, 3-4 years to fully write everything. But
Hmm.
again, that is mostly because of the work and school schedules and other stuff
Yeah.
that everyone had going on.
What is the oldest song on the album?
I think Hormones. I think that was the first one that I wrote after the self-titled album came out.
Did it go through like different versions? Did you like how did you kind of did it change along with you or did it always stay the same as the first version?
Honestly, not really. That song was pretty consistently. I play guitar, Jack plays the drums, because we get to
Hmm.
being such a like whatever kind of band. Like we really enjoy just doing whatever we want. So it was like he plays drums, I play guitar, and then Michael is playing his rhythm part and Dee's playing bass, and that's just how it was. It was very
Yeah.
straightforward, and other than probably improvising some harmonies that we were like, oh, that sounds good, we should keep that. I think that it was really very consistent.
Hmm. Is there a song that changed like a lot throughout the writing process that kind of stands out the most?
Yeah, actually, I think so. Yada Yada was the second single that we put out, and that one originally was its own standalone thing. And then
Hmm.
we also wrote another song called Age. Um, and they were never intended specifically to be like connected to one another like they are on the album, but it was like we played Yada Yada and then we played Age after, in every set. They were just in two different keys.
Hmm.
Um, and then at one point we were playing the transition between the two of them, um, that wasn't as formal at the time, but someone yelled yada yada while we were playing Age. We were like, okay, they've got similar feelings,
Hmm.
enough that people are like, yeah, this is kind of the same. And so then we ended up changing the key of it and keeping the same idea, but um, then it blended into being, okay, we're going to record this all as one song and have that cut in the middle.
Yeah. How do you guys like go about naming your songs? Because I think this is the first time I've ever asked any musician I know how they name their songs. Um, but like you guys have some fun names on
Mhm.
like your entire album. So I'm very curious of like how you come about making that the name of it.
Some of them, it's the straightforward, like this is the chorus, and the
Mm.
chorus works best as the title. But other times it's a little bit deeper. We have one song, Anticimex Pest, which is there was a diner in my hometown, and they shut down, and then it got taken over by a pest control company, and I think it was Anticimex. I don't know 100%, but it was a long time ago, and I just thought that that name was really cool, and I was writing a song about the music scene and people who are there, but they don't really care about the music and stuff. So I was like, pests, pest control, Anticimex pest, and it just, it's got an X in it. I was like, that's cool. Um,
Yeah.
and then some other songs, it's like, you know, caffeine. It's not in the chorus, but the song's about caffeine. It,
Yeah.
it depends, and it really ultimately is decided, I think, by whatever looks cool,
Hmm. Yeah.
whatever visually represents the song the best.
Hmm. Definitely. So this is like your first big like estrogens project, Chemical Burns. So how has releasing this album kind of impacted your band and like the plans for the future overall?
I think that just in general, everything feels a lot bigger because there's more of like a real music community behind everything. Um, because when we put out a record in high school, it's like, okay, this is going to our classmates, our friends. People will see us and maybe buy a CD because they think it's a fun thing to have.
Hmm.
But this is the first album that we're putting out that's like for people who are interested in our music. And I think the goal now is to just keep making stuff for those people, keep doing stuff, within the community, and kind of try and grow and see what else we can do, but
Hmm.
also still be here and be present, with the rest of the people who are in the Glassboro music scene.
Yeah. So kind of building off of like the fan base like growing, what was like the first show or like moment that you've had where you were just like, oh wow, like we're actually making something that people are into?
I think the big like shift, or the thing that felt like a big shift, was when we did Battle of the Bands, and the group of people that are all standing right in front of the stage. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of people, you
Yeah.
know, and that's a lot of people who are standing up, because we're playing. Like that's cool. And then we won, which was awesome. And then we went and we did Holly Bash, which
Hmm.
was, obviously the biggest crowd that we've ever played to, but also the most diverse crowd that we've ever played to.
Hmm.
And I think that also felt like a very big shift because people who, aren't in the music scene don't know that there's a music scene.
Hmm.
Um, they're talking about it, even if it's like, why is this woke band on stage at Holly Bash? It's like they're still kind of, I mean, you have something to say, obviously. It left an
Yeah.
impact.
Hmm.
Um, so that those two definitely felt like big, oh my god, we're actually doing something and people are watching. And then there would be people who, it was like every day for the rest of the spring semester after we did Holly Bash, someone was coming up to me and being like, oh, you're in Estrogens, right? I saw you guys play at Holly Bash. And I was like, that's crazy. you know,
Yeah.
and it's people I've never met before, but they know me because my hair is green. And, so that was a good move on my part as a PR major. I'm very proud of myself for that green hair dye decision.
Yeah, it was very much a standout moment.
Mhm.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Battle of the Bands because I actually judged that along with I forget who else was there. I think Carly and someone else. I can't remember. It was so long ago.
I think,
But
yeah, Margot from
yes,
Snowman, right?
Margot.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. And then I think there was one more and I'm awful. I just can't remember who it was. But that was a really, really, really fun show. And you guys absolutely deserved the win. You guys
Thank
were
you.
awesome. But speaking of that show, I know you guys really built up on the like mad scientist like kind of aesthetic. Where did that come from? And like what made you guys want to have that as your like performance and also just the vibe of the album overall?
So it was a slow build. There were a couple songs on the record that had chemical in the lyrics somewhere, and that was just by chance.
Mhm.
And then eventually, I think it was a little more intentional to work that into the image that we were building.
Mhm.
Um, so it was like in Jack is a straight edge punk. This chemical reaction is the one that makes me sick. And it was those little things plus the discussion that we had about what we wanted to call the album
Mhm.
that landed us with chemical burns. And estrogen obviously is, I think, a chemical, right? I feel like I should know that. Um, but it's something that I drew up as a logo with our little angry smiley face in the thing, and so I was like, this is cool. We have this logo, we have these songs, and we have this title. Um, and then one of my friends who I met doing like a summer program here, she was a biochemist, I think. But she changed her major so she didn't need the lab coat and the goggles anymore.
Mm.
And I was like, I'll take them. And then it was literally like that happened. And then we bought the Erlenmeyer flask that we
Mhm.
use. And the rest happened naturally from there. It was just it was a fun spectacle, a fun
Yeah.
thing to put on and do.
Hmm. It definitely like brings your band to life, kind of. It's like you see this, you know it's them, and that's it. And that I feel like every band kind of has needs that a little bit for them to stand out against everybody else. Um, but what are your plans for now promoting the album? I know you said that you guys are going on like a little bit of a break, but do you have any like bigger plans or even just like social media ways of like promoting that you are planning on doing?
I hate social media promotion
Me too.
very bad. Um, I hate the whole like, did we just write the song of the summer style of marketing. Um,
Yeah.
right now, it's just we've got the CDs coming in. I think there's a local record store that wants to do an event.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, and I'm very excited for the things like that. Something that still gives us the chance to not be so focused on everything, but
Mhm.
still taking care of the baby that we just made. Like um, so yeah, putting out the CDs, doing a couple little things like that, and you know hopefully people still pay attention to it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Who would you say are like the main influences or inspirations that you guys drew from for this album specifically?
For this album, I was listening to a lot of Color in the Shape by Foo Fighters, which is
Mhm.
why the title track of the album is the last track on the record. It was also the last song that I wrote for the album. Um, but yeah, it's called Chemical Burns because Color in the Shape is the last song. Um, and I just thought that was cool. There were a couple other little things in some tracks that we wrote that I were very like Foo Fighters esque.
Yeah.
Um, obviously, there's a couple that are always big influences like Descendants, and there's some, funk in the bass. There's some, Green Day and fucking everything we do. Uh, but it's, I don't know. It's a variety of different influences that all kind of create that sound.
Yeah. And lastly, what is your favorite song on the album?
Okay, so it shifts. I think that there are a couple really fun tracks, and I feel like I'm gonna say an answer, and then I'm gonna go look at the track list after and be like, "Damn, I should have said." But um, I think I when the album like actually came out, I had this big like, damn, caffeine is so good. Like that
Hmm.
song is so like I don't know. And that one was mostly Jack. That was one of the things where he had the concept, he had the riff and everything, and then we came together and it's got that like ticking at the beginning with the hi-hat and everything that I put in because I was like, well, it's caffeine. It's a little anxious. It's a little like I don't know, and I think that that song is just so loaded, and the way it was recorded and mixed and everything was just, I don't know. I'm very like, it's so fun to listen to, and I do. I love when people are like, they would catch me on earbuds or like listening to our music, and I'm like, why would I write stuff that I don't want to listen to?
Yeah. That is a good point. I know a lot of people who are like, yeah, I won't listen to my own music, like whatever. But exactly what you just said, you should be able to listen to it because it should be good to
Mhm.
you. Because why would you release anything you don't like?
It's true.
Doesn't make sense. I will not listen to my own podcast though, because I hate listening to my own voice. I can't handle it. But I'm trying to get over it. It's annoying though.
Mhm.
Um, but that's all the questions I had for you about the album. And now I want to get into a little bit about like just your live performances. Not too many questions, but what is like a live performance? I know you talked about the Battle of the Bands and Holly Bash, but is there any other live performances that kind of stick out to you and something that you kind of look for when you're always performing?
So I think that something that we got to do over the summer was we went out and we did, a tour. We did a couple shows and we played our first shows out of state. And that was very, very exciting. We went on like an actual road trip, completely funded by, people. We did a tour fundraiser and people donated and we were able to go out and play at these places in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
Um, and something that I loved to bring from, Glassboro to other places was just that kind of, that energy, that feeling of like, hey, we're on stage. We may as well act like we're on stage.
Mhm.
Put on the lab coats and do the Erlenmeyer flask and do the whole mad scientist bit. Um, I think that the one that really stood out to me was the show that we played in Dixon City, Pennsylvania. That was actually, we got to meet the guys from Feverton, who, like I said, we've known for so long. And then finally getting to play a show together was crazy because it was
Mhm.
like, something that started out as such a dream and such a, like, oh, maybe eventually we could do this. And then eventually happened. And it was really interesting. And that show
Mhm.
was funny too because it was at a vape shop in, middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania.
That's
And then you
awesome.
walk outside and it's the most beautiful mountain views that you've
Mhm.
ever seen.
Yep. Sounds like
Yeah.
PA. Is there any other like bands that you may be in contact with or anything like that that you want to perform with in the future?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think that there's some people who are doing some really, really cool stuff. And, like I said earlier, just by nature of them doing something, I'm like, that's impressive. And I want to make that connection. I don't know any off the top of my head. But just, so many really cool bands that are doing such really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. What is something that you've like kind of like taken, I don't know, advice or just like influence from in your live performance?
In our live performance, I don't know. I think it's a lot of like watching other bands' early performances and being like, I like the way that they do that kind of stuff. I
Hmm.
like the way that it feels like a stage performance. It's not just we're
Yeah.
gonna play the songs off the record. It's like we're gonna really take advantage of being on stage, and I think that
Mhm.
that probably is the main takeaway from that.
Yeah. And now I'm gonna ask what your plans for estrogens are in the future and how you guys kind of are planning on pursuing those things.
Mhm. Um, nothing concrete right now. A lot
Hmm.
of stuff that's up in the air. We got through making the record, and it's this kind of feeling of, well, now we can do anything. You know, the album was the thing, but now it's okay. Well, do we want to do another album, or do we want to put
Yeah.
out an EP? Do we want to do, do we want to start putting grand piano on our songs? Like, it's kind of the world is our oyster, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we do next because
Yeah.
I don't know. But definitely trying to get out more, play more stuff. Um, just outside of this area to
Hmm.
kind of see what the rest of the DIY scenes in the East Coast think of Estrogents.
Yeah. Just expand out a little bit. Well, now it's the plug hour, so you can talk about any shows, anything you guys have coming up in the next few months or
Okay,
years.
well, um, I don't know when exactly this is coming out, but we will have CDs for Chemical Burns. Chemical Burns is out on every streaming platform, Bandcamp, especially if you want to be the most directly supportive. Um, and yeah, shows. Like I said, we might be doing that thing with the local record store, doing a little CD release party. That's very exciting. And yeah, other than that, for me personally, I am involved with this little project called Grutch Records. Um, I'm trying to do as much with it as I can. Right now, it is mainly like a DIY scene archive.
Hmm.
Um, I have my friends go out, or I go out and we film stuff, take pictures, and try and capture as much of the Glassboro scene as possible,
Hmm.
and then put it all in one spot. The big and most useful thing I've done with that is called the Grutch newsletter. Anytime there's a flyer for a show that comes out, I send it there. And I
Oh.
know I've had people tell me like, yeah, I know what shows are happening because of the newsletter. And I'm like, that's such a cool thing to be able to,
Mhm.
take the connections that I have and be like, you know, here, let me lower the barrier for entry to the local scene.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I wish you luck in that. That's so sick. 'Cause it's
Thank
kind of
you.
like on par with what I kind of try to do too.
Hmm.
It's hard work, let me tell
It
you.
is.
But it's worth it, I think, because everybody needs to know about it. But I also wish you luck with everything with estrogens. And to the listeners, make sure you follow estrogens on all platforms and stream their music, preferably on Bandcamp, but other things also. And always remember to stay groovy.